Hi guys, Mrs. Alberts here and welcome back to my channel. Let's begin. Right, so let's look at your language. So firstly, we're now marking. What has changed in recent times, it didn't always used to be the same like this, is that your spelling of one-word answers does not count in specific places. For example, if they are asking you to write down or write out the abbreviation, so they gave you the abbreviation BL full stop, and you write Bladsy, but you spell Bladsy wrong, that's fine because they didn't test your spelling, they tested whether you knew what the abbreviation was for. But if they are asking you to take the word Bladsy and make a plural of it, and you misspell when you want to put it into plural, that would be wrong, because the intention of asking you the plural is to check if you know the rules in changing a word from a singular to a plural. That goes for the same with diminutives, or if they want you to change something into like a trappe van vergelijking, if they want you to make a deelwoord, those types of things will be focusing on language. But everything else, one-word answer will not be taken as incorrect if the spelling is wrong. Right, and so you'll remember this one. We've done this in our visual video. This is your first part of your 2018 paper that we are working through, and this was the advertisement that we checked out in our visual video. Okay, so here you'll see that 3.1 and 3.5, those were visual questions. So now we're going to 3.2 where it asks you for the correct pronoun. And when we look at this one, it says, jy is dalk iemand wat of wie 'n vakansie nodig het. The correct answer in this case will be wat. I will show you in the rules why it is wat. 3.3, give the intensive form of the word in brackets. 'n goedkoop will be spot goedkoop, one word and not two words. So in this case, when it comes to intensive forms, because all intensive forms need to be one word, your spelling will count because they are testing not only if you know your intensive form, but if you know the rule about the spelling. Give the correct form of the word between brackets. This one is asking you to change this word into a verb. So when you read that sentence, ons sal selfs jou troeteldiere, and then it's got the word welkom, it needs to be verwelkom. Okay, so if you add a ver in front of a verb, in a word, you can change it into a verb, not in all cases, but in this one definitely. Okay, let's look at your pronouns, betreklike voornaamwoorde. When we look at the wat and wie scenario, we use the following for people. Wat for a person if there is no preposition in the second sentence. Wie plus a preposition only if there is a preposition in the second sentence. And wiese if we would use whose in English. So this has to do with people. So when you look at the sentence that you were given, it had no preposition in the second sentence, and therefore it was wat that you had to choose. While we are here, however, let's also look at inanimate objects or animals. Wat for an inanimate object and animals. Waarvan for inanimate objects or animals if you would use whose in English, and wat plus whatever preposition is in there changes when referring to an inanimate object. So you will have wat plus the preposition waarvan, waarmee, waarop, anything like that. Then when it comes to intensive forms, you have to remember that intensive forms are always one word. And you can learn as many as you can. They are talking about maybe having made up ones accepted into memoranda, but at this point nothing has been spoken about or said when it comes to your final exam, so try and learn as much as you can. Anything, you can Google it, you can use the pages that I've got on my downloads. Just make sure you remember that's always one word. Here we've got 3.7 and 3.8 that were visual questions. So the next one we look at is voorzetsels, which is preposition. 3.6, that at, what preposition does that stand for? And that would be in English at and in Afrikaans by. The correct form of the word in brackets, that is a rolstoelvriendelik vakansieoord. You can see that it's an adjective because it explains to you more about the vakansieoord. So dit gaan wees rolstoelvriendelike. So let's quickly look at a few rules here. We're going to look at byvoeglike naamwoorde. With byvoeglike naamwoorde, when your words, your byvoeglike naamwoorde are predicative, those are easy. Those are the ones that stand after the noun. So it explains the noun, more about the noun, but it stands after the noun. The one that's a little bit more difficult is the one that stands before the noun. Why? Because those change. Ons noem hulle verboe forme. So when you look at the examples at the bottom, die grond is droog. The moment you take that droog and you move it in front of the noun, it changes to droe. So there are a few rules that you need to learn. So for example, when you have most of your adjectives with only one syllable, they do not get an E if it stands in front of your noun. So for example, the word groot can be anywhere in a sentence and it will still just stay groot. It will not get an E. However, if you have one syllable words ending on an F, S, D, or G, then you have to change it as follows. And here are a few examples. If it ends on an F, then it becomes dowwe with a double W. Fix, fixe, it gets an E. Coat, the D falls away, koue, etc. If you have an adjective with more than one syllable and it will end on an ER, or it ends on an ER, sorry, then it will get an E if it stands in front of, it will not get an E, sorry, if it stands in front of your noun. So dapper, it has more than one syllable, it ends on an ER, but there it will not change. So dapper in front or after the noun stays exactly the same. If you've got a word that has more than one syllable, usually it will get an E if it stands in front of the noun. So here we've got the word gevaarlik, so it's many syllables there, so it just gets an E when you move it in front of the noun. Vriendelike, dringende. There are obviously some exceptions, as with everything Afrikaans, and these are the exceptions that you can look at. So when we look at this one, and you'll recognize this as well from our visual, the first one is asking for a comma. You have to put the comma in the right place for 4.1. So it's ma and then comma. Hammy probeer sy beste om my te irriteer. The reason for that comma, aanspreekvorm, you always put a comma after you have a, ek weet nou nie wat aanspreekvorm is. When you address somebody, there we go. Synonym for the word irritate, irriteer. It's pla, help is help, verveel is to be bored. These two questions were visual questions, so we go to this one. Indirekte rede. You have to change the sentence into the indirect speech. Okay, so there you have a question word, hoe. And there you have an infinitive, om op te hou. So you are going to have it like this. Die dogtertjie vra hoe sy hom kan kry om op te hou. We're going to go through some indirekte rede in a moment, but when you have a question word, the question word takes the place of the word dat. So the question word will take that place, and you remember the infinitive, you always leave the infinitive alone. It moves towards the back and it stays there. You change nothing. 4.6 has the word impliceer. Impliceer means implied meaning. Now, implied meaning you can only use if you've got the vocabulary. So you have to go back to the girls' words. You have to look at what the implied meaning is in order to answer. So that one, it's something that you will have to look at yourself. 7.4. You have to complete the sentence by choosing the correct answer. As die dogtertjie met haar boetie raas, sal sy sê. And in this case, you had to look at the correct order, so the correct stompie for a bevelsin. And funny enough, question 4.8 has a bevelsin. We have to rewrite the mother's words in Rampie 3 into a bevelsin, and that looks like this. There you go. Gaan maak jou kamer skoon, gaan maak jou kamer skoon with a full stop or an exclamation. Jy moet jou kamer gaan skoon maak of net maak jou kamer skoon. Any one of those. A tussenwerpsel is when you it's an exclamation, so the word would be nah. So direct and indirect speech. Okay, let's look at some rules. Remember, you always have to change your pronouns and your adverbs if you have different places and different times. Okay. There are some pronouns that change. Look at them. Then, after a question, we use the conjunction if, okay, of, which is in group 3. So the verb of the second sentence goes to the end. So normally when you have a question, it will look like this. Albert vra, is jy lus om te gaan swem? Albert vra of sy lus is om te gaan swem. Now, this is lovely. Remember your helping verb. If it was in front, like the second sentence, then your helping verb will always go to the front of your main verb at the back. Oh, that sounded very confusing. Let's start this again, that sentence. So your helping verb goes in front of your main verb, but both of them go to the back. That sounds better. However, if you have a question and you have a question word, then the question word remains in its position. So, Albert vra hoe laat gaan julle swem? Albert vra hoe laat? Then you change your pronoun, hulle, and then you've got your helping verb first, gaan, and then your main verb second, swem. Both gaan and swem at the back of the sentence. When we look at the next one, we have a question word, wanneer. Wanneer moves into the spot. After vra, you've got the verb moving towards the back. What you will also notice is that your question is not a question anymore. So do not put a question mark at the end of your indirect speech sentence. Okay, so what happens in a question sentence when a person is addressed? Okay, so just FYI. Albert vra, wil jy koeldrank hê, Johan? So I made a mistake here. I remember now when I did this one. So Johan suddenly had a change and now it's Joan. I apologize. So Albert vra vir Joan of sy koeldrank wil hê. So you can either put it in that section there, Albert vra vir Joan, and then you continue with your sentence, or you could have said Albert vra Joan of sy koeldrank wil hê. You don't have to use the vir. I prefer it this way. It makes it easier. Then you don't have to worry about where the name goes. So this is your question 5 from your paper, and we are almost there. You'll see that now from question 5 onwards, it's simply language, language, language. There's no more visual questions or any sneaky things like that. So we go to afkorting first. There is a as gevolg van that you have to give the abbreviation for. There you go, full stops. Remember full stops when you have small letters, abbreviations. Then the correct form of the byvoeglike naamwoord tussen hakies. We've had this explanation before, so we've got the word goed, and goed is in front of voorbeeld, which is your noun. So you've got one syllable, it ends on a D, and this is one of those exceptions where you have to change the entire word, so goed becomes goeie. Unfortunately, not one with a rule that you can follow, so just check your exceptions for that one. But that is part of your verboe vorme. 5.1.3, homofoon, it's the one that sounds the same, but you spell it differently. So a different one for lay. And in that case, we will have LE, which meant to lead. So the other one would be LY, and that means to suffer. So any sentence where you use the LY word. Telwoord, where is the telwoord in the sentence? Telwoord is your numeral. So there you go, there's 10, which is a number. Meervoud, you have to change the word skoolhoof into a meervoud. 1 skoolhoof, 2 skoolhoofde. So abbreviations, the only thing apart from having to learn everything and going through the notes that you have, there are about 4 things that you can remember. Punte word gebruik by kleinletter afkorting. So anytime you've got small letters like byvoorbeeld, ensovoorts, etc., you'll have your full stops. We have no full stops with your metric units like millimeter, centimeter, or liter. And also note that centimeter, even though in Afrikaans it's spelled with an S, we spell it with a CM because these are universal metric units. There are no full stops with your geographical names like RSA, FSR, etc. And then you'll use a hyphen, there we go, with your abbreviations with where you have an abbreviation coupled with a word like graad. With wimifone, wimonieme, paronieme, polysemy, and all those lovely things, I know you are stressing, don't worry. They ask mostly synonyme and antonyme. Some of these wimifone, wimonieme, but dublette, polysemy, paronieme, it's not very likely they would ask that, and if they do, they wouldn't ask you to give a paroniem for. They'd rather say choose between verken and herken, and then it becomes a vocabulary question anyway. When it comes to plurals, make sure you know your rules. Then when we have 5.1.6, oortreffende trap, it has to do with your degrees of comparison. Now, degrees of comparison, you need to know the three, what do they call the three steps? Otherwise, you won't know which one they are asking for. Oortreffende trap is the last one. You look at the D to tell you what to do. So if it has a D, it's going to be swakste. Voornaamwoord. Dawn het aan die einde van 2017 'n toekenning gekry vir haar uitstekende werk. Now, if you are unsure about whether Dawn is a guy or a girl, don't stress. They do allow for mistakes like that to be made because these days it's difficult, especially with unisex names. So don't be too scared if you don't know whether Dawn is a boy or a girl. Just complete the sentence correctly by showing a possessive in this one. Vir haar uitstekende werk ontvang of vir sy uitstekende werk ontvang. 5.1.8, you have to make an infinitive of this section here. Saam seker maak. It's going to be om seker te maak. Lettergrepe, it's your syllables. You have to use volwassenes and break it up into syllables. When it comes to lettergrepe, it has to be spelled correctly. It's klankgrepe, where you have to break it up into the way it sounds. Then we've got direct speech again. We've had indirect, and now we have to change it to direct. So now we say Dawn sê. Remember, we use a colon. We do not use a comma after sê. You've got your, what do you call them? Aanhalingstekens. Anyway, and then you start capital letter. Dit is belangrik dat onderwysers op gehalte onderrig focus, and then you close your inverted commas. That's the word I was looking for. Trappe van vergelyking. Okay, so you should study it along with what they are called. So when we look here, stellende trap is the first one, vergrotende trap is the second one, and normally you would have the word as or hoe to show you that it is vergrotende trap in a sentence, and then oortreffende trap, the last one, has the word die to show you which one of the steps it is going to be. If it is a as or a hoe, then you're going to add an ER. If it is D, you're going to add STE. Okay, so be careful of your infinitive, ladies and gents. There are quite a few ways that they can ask it, and it could get tricky. In the 2018 paper, they gave you words in brackets, seker maak, and you had to change it into the infinitive. The easiest way would be to add om and te. So you're going to add your om before the bracket. You're going to have seker, and then just before your verb, you're going to add te. That's the easiest way. But they can always give you a sentence with a moet in it and ask you to change it into the infinitive using behoort. And as you can see from the slide, then you will just change the moet. You will take away, and you will have behoort, and then te, and then you continue your sentence. If they've got, jy hoef nie jou werk te doen nie, or they ask you, ek behoort te sorg dat al my werk gedoen is, and they want you to change it into the negative, you will change it by using the words hoef nie of hoef net, depending on what it is that they are asking you. Blyk or skyn, I haven't seen many of those in question papers before, but do go through the rules anyway, just to make sure that you've covered everything. Okay, antonym. So antonym is your opposites. There's your word O. Now, be careful. If they've given you the word O, you have to keep it in the same verboe form. You cannot now say niet. Oud and niet are opposites. O and nuwe are opposites. So make sure that you've got the correct form of the word in brackets. Leidende vorm is next. You have to rewrite the sentence into leidende vorm. So we've got onderwysers, which will be your subject, motivate, motiveer, which is your verb, leerders, which is your object, and then we've got an infinitive. Leerders word deur onderwysers gemotiveer om dit te gebruik. I will explain in a moment when we've got our slides up how the infinitive works. But as you can see, we've swapped around our subject and our object. We have indicated that this is a sentence in present tense. That's why we use the word word. There's always a deur in front of your subject, which is onderwysers. The verb motiveer gets a ge in front, and the infinitive you always leave alone. You move it to the back, nothing changes. Voorsetsel, preposition. Okay, this one is by trots op Laerskool Blomvlei. Correct form of the verb between brackets. You've got the word help, and you have to change it to help now. This one they always ask you, and everybody wants to know what is the difference between help and hope. And I've got a little slide on my Instagram that you can also look at. When you've got help with an E, it is a verb. It is something that you do. Hope with a U, that is a noun. It's something you can offer or give, if you can remember it that way. You ask for help in English, that means it's something that somebody can give you, then it's help. And if you scream help, help, you know, because you need help, or somebody is helping you to do something, then it's H-E-L-P. So verb H-E-L-P and noun H-U-L-P. Okay, so let's look at leidende vorm. Before we start with leidende vorm, you have to revise your tenses. You need to know your basic stompie in order to go over to your leidende vorm. So make sure you know your stompie, do colors, do whatever you need to do, and revise your tenses. How do you know which tense is which? Then, as you can see, I've given you a new formula. That is the formula for leidende vorm. So when we look at the sentence here, I gave you quite a long sentence. There's your formula, and I gave you the answer. I want to click through everything quick so you can see nothing changes in the different tenses except word, which is the indication that it is present tense. Deur is always with your subject, as you can see from your formula that I wrote at the top. When you go to past tense, it's is. There will always be a ge in front of your verb, no matter what tense it is. And then the final thing you need to see is sal goes with your future tense, and we add a word before the infinitive. Look at those, study those, and make sure you know your formula off by heart. Okay, last bit of your paper, you've got the correct word. They've given you klere and kleure. It's because we get confused with those two words. Klere with an E is clothes, and kleure is colors. So remember it like this. If you spell colors correctly, like the British told us to, you will have a U in colors, and therefore we have a U in kleure. Ontkennende vorm, write this in the negative form. Die gordyne is toegetrek. Die gordyne is nie toegetrek nie. Verkleinwoord, you have to write it in the diminutive. Venster becomes venstertjie. Ontbrekende woord means that you'll have to have vocabulary. Read the sentence, look at the picture, what is missing? This instrument against the wall, what is it? It's a guitar or a guitar, it doesn't matter how you spell it in this case, you've got two spellings. Vorm samenstelling means that you have to put these two words together. When you have the word kind, you'll normally have the word kinderkamer. That ER, that is a verbindingsklank. It always goes with the word kind. So look out for that one. And then you have to complete the sentence. Again, it is a vocabulary question. Look at your picture and what are they pointing to? It's that fan in the ceiling. It's called a waaier of a dakwaaier. Verkleiningsvorme, diminutives, they also have rules, so make sure you go through them. Know when to add a TJE, know when to just add an IE, when to W consonants, etc. Samenstellings, that is part of your morphology. There are also rules as to when to put specific verbindingsklanke into the word. So most of the time you just need to join the two words, but just in case, study these commonly asked words. You'll see that words like lewe will always have lewens something. So lewenslank, lewensstyl. So look out for these ones. There you go, guys. Good luck, and I hope you do well. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you've got any questions, you can follow me on Instagram at Afrikaans Classroom. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos, like and share.